Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And welcome back to another episode of Ask the Alima. I hope everyone is doing well and I hope everyone is in the best of health and iman. So we had a great episode, the last one, talking about family ties, and with the school holidays approaching, I hope everyone is spending the opportunities that they get to spend time with their family, their loved ones, inshallah. And I hope you are benefiting from the episode so far. I know we speak a lot about so many relevant topics, so many things that just come up for women, especially, and men in this day and age. And it's so important that we talk about these things. A lot of the time we are speaking about family. I get so many questions from so many of you talking about marriage, family, wanting me to cover topics, wanting to hear my insights. And I'm so happy that we have this amazing show that we can talk about these things in an open space where I can hear your opinions, hear what your concerns are, answer your questions. So if you do have any questions today, please do, or send your questions in on the screen, on the number that's shown on the screen. The WhatsApp number is there. They all will stay absolutely anonymous, or call in and be a part of this discussion today. I love hearing from you so much. So we have a sister or a brother, I'm not too sure who it was, who wanted to know more about marrying from the same race, and talking about how a lot of the times when men and women are getting married from outside of their caste, or from a person who may not be from the same cultural background, about the problems it arises and how sometimes we can look at it in a very backward way. Now, they wanted to know more about how Islam ties in with this. Now, we can say that, oh yeah, we're like the 21st century, 2022, and we've kind of left all that behind. But yeah, you may have, but the thing is, you need to check in, and it's also a joint responsibility in our communities that we're celebrating people getting married, regardless of who they're marrying, regardless of the color of their skin. Like, of course, at times, many people choose to marry within their own caste, within their own cultures, within the communities that they know, to make things easier, because of course cultural differences can play a huge thing in marriages, because at the end of the day, the couple, the husband and wife, need to have great understanding between each other. So I do want to touch up on a few of these things, especially myself being a relationship coach. You see the pros, you see the cons of marrying in and out of your own culture. Now, before I go into this, there are a few things I do want to touch up on. The fact that Islam, nowhere in Islam does it say that you can only marry from your own. The things that you need to be looking at is, especially number one, the deen. Does this person have deen? If they have that, then you're already doing better than most, because in this day where the basics, like praying 5 times a day, which is a farad, it's a pillar of Islam, where people aren't doing that, and you struggle, and and this is a huge part of our religion. People aren't able to do that. We really do need to find those people who are of the deen, not just outwardly. I'm talking about the inner. And are they going to places which are good for them? Are they worshipping Allah? And obviously, you don't know a person until you marry them, but does this person actively want to become better in their deen, stronger in their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So before the race, before we talk about a culture, I feel like we do need to speak about this first, because you can marry your culture, you can marry somebody, you can marry your third cousin for all I care, you can marry your second cousin for all I care, or your first. But at the end of the day, if this person who you know so well, or your family wants for you to marry, has not got any deen in their life, then you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. Let me tell you why. Islam is a perfect religion. And I'd say this pretty much probably every episode. Islam is a very beautiful, perfect religion. But if this man has no, or this woman has no inclination to learning about the deen or connecting with Allah, then this man is not going to be worrying so much, or this woman isn't going to be worrying so much about fulfilling your Islamic rights. And women and men have rights in Islam. And this is why nikah, marriage, is so beautiful, because not only is it something so blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're also protected. You're protected when you know your rights, and he or she will only be happily able to fulfill them when they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So race aside, color aside, culture aside, this is what we need to be looking at first and foremost. So if your son or your daughter says to you one day that I want to marry someone, and this person may not be the ideal person who you've been thinking about in your head, she may or he may not have, she may be lighter or darker than you wanted. The truth is, it shouldn't be mattering to you, because if it doesn't matter to your son or your daughter, who will actually be spending the rest of their life with this person, then it shouldn't matter to you either. And I'm not saying you're not allowed to have preferences. You're allowed to have preferences. Everyone has preferences, but this shouldn't be the biggest, most important deciding factor in the happiness of the couple. You know, because so many times we hear of parents saying, no, you can't marry that person. Like, what are you thinking? Are you absolutely crazy? Are you out of your mind? You can't marry this person. They're not even from the same, let alone the same country, the same village back home. Craziness. It's absolute madness. But these two people may have been very well suited. And at the end of the day, we need to put aside this whole cultural difference. If they believe that, yeah, you know, it will be harder to marry out the culture, and that's why I want to, you know, stay safe, but safer for myself, because that's something that I feel like I'll be able to handle the differences a lot easier by staying within my own culture, then absolutely, that's fine. That's totally up to you. But people shouldn't be turning down, you know, good proposals and good people, and people who are on the deen, people who are good, have good akhlaq, good character, because of the color of their skin or where they're from or the country they're from. When in fact, we need to be able to broaden our idea of what Islam is, because sometimes we feel like the good Muslims are those who pray the same as us, or who dress the same as us, who speak the same kind of language of the same dialect of language of us. But we know that's not true. We know it. Islam wasn't sent for a certain type of one people. It wasn't sent for just the South Asians or the Arabs. It wasn't. It was sent for everybody. And there will be times where you will see that your people will marry out the family, and they may bring somebody to your home that is praying differently, dressing differently, talking differently, and maybe following their religion in a way that they follow their religion. And you need to be totally okay with that. And one way that we can do this is by getting out of the house, meeting people, be opening to meeting people. You know, when you go to the masjids, and it's so sad, like some of the masjids you go to, and you've got like a certain race or culture sitting together, and then there's another group of people who are sitting together, and they don't mix, they don't say salam with each other. Like, this isn't Islam. Islam is all about unity and bringing people together. One Allah, they worship one Allah. That's it. It's not about creating divisions, and this is where we're failing. And we need to encourage, if we know that we have people in our own home who won't go and mix, encourage them to do that, you know, instead of keeping them in the home and shielding them, and then letting them believe whatever they want to believe and all these wrong beliefs, and, you know, letting them just carry on embracing those. It's not okay, because this then has a knock-on effect on everybody. Imagine now you want to marry out of your culture, then your parents are like, no. And then you're like, no, but I want to marry this girl, I want to marry this guy. And then you bring them home, and then they never accept them. They never do. So sometimes they're like, yeah, fine, you can marry them, but then they never actually fully accept them in their heart, because they always feel like we're better, or he could have done better, or she could have done better. Imagine if only he married or she married within her culture, within her race. And they always see it as like almost a disgrace. It's disgusting behavior. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, who do we think we are? We're literally made from dirty fluid. Like, we really need to humble ourselves a little bit. We have so much pride within us. We think we're like the best of the best, but really we're not. We're not. And the only thing that differentiates the people is what's in their heart. Who's more closer to Allah? And you don't know who's closer to Allah, because a person puts their hands in a different place to you in salah, or speaks differently, or even reads the Quran slightly differently to you. You know, at the end of the day, your connection with Allah is something that we don't know. And it can get really ugly, because you see it so many times. The problem with marrying, when somebody, okay, yeah, you may say that, okay, I'm fine, you can marry out of the culture, you can marry somebody from another race, and then they bring them home, and then they make their life difficult. they never fully accept this new person in the family, and they make their life difficult. They don't call them. They say, yeah, I've accepted it, but they're not calling them to the family gatherings. They're not sitting at the table when it comes to, the gatherings. And it's sad. It's sad because it's just like, you're not opening your heart for other people. So first, we need to look at the kind of gatherings that we're attending, the kind of circles we're going to. Is it the same old faces that we are speaking to? Are you actually going out of your way to get to know others, to embrace the beauty of Islam being for everybody? So it's a huge thing that we need to start thinking about now. And, we just need to need to let people marry for the sake of Allah and be happy for the sake of Allah. So obviously, other than the fact that we're looking at the deen aspect, which is a huge aspect which people are overlooking, people are going straight for status, for money. What has this person got a degree in? What does this person work as? These things are important. I'm not going to lie. These things are very, very important, especially if you're a woman. And I'll get to this later on in the episode. Or you're a man and you need a man to be able to provide for you, because that is your right. So you will be looking at, can this man provide for me? Can this man bring something for me? Can he make sure that I'm safe? Can he provide for me? So these things are important as well. And you do need to look at these things, because at the end of the day, you being provided for as a woman is your right. And I'm going to get into this as well, because we have so many confusions about being provided for as a woman. So there's a lot of things you need to think about, but I really don't think in this day and age, we need to be deeping the aspect of marrying within our culture, unless you absolutely want to. But if you're constantly thinking about, my parents won't accept, then maybe we need to, if you're a woman or a man and you have a lot of friends, I don't know what, I'm just guessing, if you're like around my parents' age and you have friends and you have aunties and uncles that are home and they're having these conversations, and you need to step up and tell them that you need to see this a different way now. Because at the end of the day, people are struggling to get married. People are struggling to find people that they're happy with. And then they're settling for people that, oh, my parents will be happy for this. Before you're marrying for your parents, you need to marry for yourself. Is this person somebody you can connect with? Is this somebody that you can click with? And I'm sure there's so many things that you want in a spouse that maybe your parents aren't even looking for the right person for you. So when you find that person and then they're out there, they're not from the same cultural background as you, then it's sad, because this person could be really good for you. So don't be afraid. Be brave enough to tell your parents as well that I want to marry somebody out of the race. And if you're not okay with that, then what do you need? What is it that you need for me to help you? Get curious. And I know it sometimes feels like it's a dead end, but most of all, we need to be making dua for our families, so that they can open their eyes and see that the best of people aren't the ones of the same color and the same race and from the same cultural background, inshallah. So hopefully we can continue this conversation after the break. If you do have any questions, make sure you do call in and send us a question on our WhatsApp. It will stay anonymous, inshallah. So it's always lovely coming on here and speaking about the things that you want to hear about, inshallah. Can't wait to do that after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about marrying in and out of culture. There's so many pros and cons to it, really. If you think it will work for you, then go ahead. If you're ready to accept somebody, I think that's so beautiful. Being able to learn about a different culture, being able to embrace it, like it's amazing. And imagine being able to then go on and then teach others, teach your children, and have them having different cultural backgrounds. There's so many things that can embrace. Islam can spread. That's how Islam spreads. Imagine if we say that no one's going to marry the woman, the British woman, the white woman who's just reverted, and no one marries her. Come on, man. How are we going to make our ummah even bigger? How are we going to have children who will be able to embrace different cultures if we're literally saying no to everybody because of the color of their skin. Okay, we need to stop doing that. We really do. But inshallah, all in good time. And you know what's scary and crazy these days? Like, we're so focused on marrying the perfect woman or marrying the perfect guy who is from the same cultural background as you. And I really think that's the least of your concerns right now, because I think men and parents, rather, they should start celebrating the fact that your child is even attracted to somebody of the opposite gender. Let's be honest. Because when we have so many same gender relationships that are going on, we have people saying that we have men saying I've fallen in love with this guy from work, and women saying I've fallen in love with my female colleague from university. That's the sad reality, and we're still caught up on the color of skin. Like, we really need to wake up and see where we're going wrong, because this is a huge problem. This is a massive problem that we're just overlooking. We're just saying that, we're driving people away. We're scaring people off marriage. And do you know what we're doing? We're just letting them entertain other ideas. We're letting them do things that we're more concerned about the things that are not even important, when we have real problems that we need to tackle as a ummah, as parents. So the fact that they are marrying want to marry, a huge sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is about to be fulfilled, and we're like, no, we need to look at all these things that are so insignificant that will not matter later on or even in the hereafter. We forget that marrying is an act of worship, and we think that, this girl that comes home is just going to be a daughter-in-law, or the son is just going to be a son-in-law. Forget that. Stop claiming your husbands, stop claiming your sons' wives and your wives' husbands. They're not yours, and you need to allow people to live. You need to allow people to live together, get to know each other, instead of meddling in their relationships. Because the problem is, before a man or a woman gets married, sometimes they're thinking, I'm bringing home this person for my parents. No, you're not. You're bringing this person to complete your deen. And yes, they can be a great asset to your family. And yes, they can do the khidmah of your parents. And that is a great thing. And it's something that they'll get so much reward for. But before that, you're going to become a couple. You're going to become one, and you're going to complete half your deen. And that's what you need to be thinking about first, before you're thinking about every single person, your neighbors and your aunties and your uncles. So inshallah, let's bring our focus back to the things that are actually important, and filter out where culture comes in, and think about, what does Allah say? What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? What would the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had advised in this time? Look towards the teachings of hadith. Look towards the stories of the Sahaba. Look towards the stories of the people who were the real examples and the real role models. Okay, so this is where we need to stop making these mistakes and come back to the authentic teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whilst we are on this marriage on topic, because we do speak about marriage a lot on this show, we also do need to think about the fact that when we're saying no, we may also be encouraging a haram relationship that may be happening. When we're saying no, you can't marry this person, but then they continue to have a relationship and they continue to grow in that relationship outside of nikah, then us as parents will be sinful for that. So when a good person comes along and they tick the boxes of having deen, they have good character, and they can provide for your daughter, or they can bring comfort into each other's lives, then you do need to think, why am I actually saying no to this? Does this actually logically make sense? If it's what other people will think, then is that how you're going to live the rest of your life? Constantly thinking about what is the next person going to say? Is your status in front of them that important that we need to compromise on our children's happiness and what is actually working for them? Think about instead, how do we look in Allah's eyes when we're allowing sin and haram to happen in front of us? That's our main concern. So bringing it back to these real concerns will help us stay focused on what's important, inshallah. So hopefully this is something that we can all benefit from. And hopefully the ones who need to hear this are hearing this right now. And if you are in this dilemma and your parents aren't budging, your family members aren't budging on letting you marry out of race, dua is your greatest weapon. Sometimes we're praying for something as well that is just not happening for us and this is not working out. Don't be so disheartened. Maybe Allah has a better plan for you, but also don't give up making dua. Dua is such a great weapon that we often don't see as being that great weapon. We do things like we first turn to everybody else. We seek nasiha, which is a beautiful thing to do. Seeking mashwara, seeking nasiha, seeking advice from elders, and seeking advice from those people who have knowledge is fantastic and is really great. But make sure you are asking Allah first, because we can get advice from everybody, but we forget that Allah is the one who can change the state of hearts. He can change people's hearts. He can turn hearts. And it's easy for Allah to do that. You have to ask, but you do have to ask Him. And when we do find ourselves in impossible situations and impossible positions that you feel like this person was absolutely meant for me and this person was my everything, but it doesn't work out, just know that that's Allah. That's Allah's plan that is unfolding for you. Maybe Allah wanted something better for you. Maybe you weren't in the best position to be married at that time, but you couldn't see that. Maybe they weren't the best person for you, whether this is inside your race or outside your race, out of the culture, in your culture, whatever it is. There's so many people, there's so many young and older people who are looking for marriage and they're just getting so disheartened because they can't find the one. The one is waiting for you too. The one is probably praying for you too. And make sure that you are actively seeking and finding people, making sure that you're part of the right circles, you're getting to know people, you're speaking to people, you're letting people know that you're looking for marriage, you're letting your parents know, and you are actually out there looking. Because if you're sitting there making dua to Allah, Allah bring me somebody, but you don't even leave the house, then it can get very tricky. So you can't be disappointed in something when we haven't taken no action. So do get out there, start looking, and also make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you become that person that you're looking for. If you're looking for a person who's on the deen, then you become one who concentrates more on their deen as well, because who knows, you may find somebody who's into the same things, but if you're looking for something in somebody that you don't have yourself, then it will get very, very difficult for you, inshallah. So go to the places where you would find your potential, where your ideal person would be hanging out, where they would be visiting. I don't know where that is for you, inshallah, but I just do know that if you are looking, then you do need to get out there and you do need to search. There has been many questions from people about a woman's right, a wife in particular, her right in a marriage, and when it comes to being financially provided for. And this is it can be simply put, yes, a woman should be provided for by a man in marriage. It is her right. So when she marries, this is like an area which can also be a grey area. So I'm going to talk about this in as much detail as I possibly can today. If you do have any questions about this that are specific that I haven't covered at all, then please do send them in. I'm happy to cover them in this episode today, inshallah. So money relationships, it can become a little grey area. I do have a quick question which I'm just going to read. Just give me a moment because it's a little bit of a long one. So somebody's asking, in Islam, can you marry a cousin? So your mum's sister's daughter, is this allowed in Islam? Yes, it is allowed in Islam. There's nothing Islamically incorrect about it. Marrying somebody from a different culture is beautiful. Thank you so much for agreeing. I do believe that marrying out of your culture can be a very beautiful thing, and embracing another culture is not everybody has the opportunity to do that. So if you do have the opportunity to do that, then that is amazing. The one problem that can come up is that the family aren't too welcoming towards the person they've married. Yeah, and that's exactly what we spoke about in this episode today, that it's sad when, yes, the family may agree to it, but then they're cold. Like, don't be cold to people. That's not good akhlaq. You're being cold to somebody because of the color of their skin or where they're from. It's not okay. It's not okay to do that. And akhlaq is such a huge thing. Good character is such a huge thing that we're taught as Muslims. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had such an amazing character, and that's how Islam spread. but we open our doors to people, but not our hearts to people. We're saying, oh yeah, okay, fine, you can have a seat at our table, but I'll never fully accept you. It's not on. And it's something that we need to change within ourselves if we are doing that. So back to the topic. Thank you so much for asking a question, by the way. I know it's a sticky one, because people are always like, is marrying your cousin allowed Islamically? It is actually allowed. There's nothing wrong with it. So, and with cousins as well, obviously, there's pros and cons to it. I'm sure many people can agree that there are cons to marrying people close in your family, because when you're marrying within a family, it can get a little bit sticky and messy because so many people who are very close are involved. But it can have its pros as well. So it really depends on who you are and what works for you. What works for you may not work for another person, and that's absolutely okay. And you need to be honest with yourself before everybody throws in their opinions for you, because I know when it comes to marriage, you can have loads of opinions and you can have loads of people giving their 2 cents. So you need to honestly think what works for you. What do you want from your partner? What kind of relationship do you have with them? Can this person give that to you? Are you connecting? Or is it like, or will it be awkward and weird if you have grown up with this person who's been like a sibling to you and then you're marrying them? I don't know what it is for you, but as long as you're being honest with yourself about what works for you and what doesn't, then that's always a good place to start, inshallah. So hopefully after the break, I'm going to touch up more about, I'm going to go into a bit more detail in the part of marriage where, it is her right to be provided for. So we're going to talk about the norm at the moment, what goes on, what people don't know about being provided for, what that gives a woman. Yes, because at the end of the day, it is her right, but that doesn't mean she has all his money and she has full control of his money. It's not that, because there can be a few sticky areas and grey areas that we get into, and people just need to know where they stand Islamically, because it can cause arguments. It can cause couples to have huge disagreements. And it's sad, because if people have the correct knowledge and people know what Islam says, what the Prophet ﷺ taught us, then we'll save ourselves from so many issues going forward. And it's so important to equip ourselves with the right knowledge, with the right tools to get the best out of our relationships, because so many relationships are ending in divorce because of things like finance. And if we understand and we know our rights, then we will save ourselves hugely. So like I said, if you do have any questions that you want to ask, whether it's about this topic or any other topics that you'd like to hear about, then do call us in or send us a question on WhatsApp, and I'd be so happy to hear from you and hear your wonderful insights as always. So I will speak to you all after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome back. So I'm really looking forward to this topic today, because I feel like it will smooth out loads of misunderstandings that people have. So let's start about before marriage and finances. So when a couple are getting married, there's a few things that they really do need to work through first. Because what can happen in many cases is we have a man who's working and we have a woman who's working. And I'm going to name a few situations out that I have seen. I have worked with couples who are going through this, and I can tell you, it will all start from here. Understanding each other before marriage, understanding what they want from each other. So the man will marry the woman, and they're both earning, they're both working. And then he goes to her after marriage that I no longer want you to work anymore. I'll provide for you. And that's great. That's fine, because yes, he should provide for her. When I talk about providing for her, I mean, he should provide shelter, he should provide food and necessities. That's all great. That's her right. He should provide that. And now he marries her, and she was like, oh, hold on a second. Well, I work and I enjoy working, and I've worked really hard to get to where I am. So I want to continue working. And he's like, well, no, you're married to me now and you don't need to work. And then this causes huge issues. And he's like, well, I can provide for you. What is the need for you to work? But maybe she likes to have her own money. Maybe she likes to have financial freedom here. So maybe she likes that. Maybe so. And then if he's like, yeah, well, I can afford to give you everything you want, then there are other things, areas that you do need to consider. Like maybe she enjoys working just because it gives her something else to do. Maybe it's something that she really enjoys doing. She really enjoys her job. So these conversations, you can't just assume that the other person just knows what you want. You need to make these things very clear. What do you want long term in your relationship? Do you always want to work? Do you want to work just for a short while? Do you want to work before kids or after kids? These things need to be said, because they can cause such huge divisions in a family. So if you are looking to get married, you're a woman, you should ask these things, because you're protecting yourself long term. Because at the end of the day, once you're married, and if you haven't covered these areas and he says, no, you can't go out to work anymore, then you're kind of digging yourself a hole there, because, well, then he can turn around and say, well, you have to obey me. I'm your husband. And even that's unfair, because at the end of the day, yes, she does need to obey you, but you do need to come from a place of compassion and understanding, and you do need to have her best interests at heart. Okay, so that's one topic, that one small area that you need to cover. And there's other areas in this as well, because if you are looking to get married and your partner, you don't want to work, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to, but then you cannot have this expectation that your partner will give you absolutely everything you want. Because sometimes a woman can say, well, I don't want to get married, but then the partner, the husband, can only provide so much. He can only provide within his means. Now, imagine if you are a girl in your parents' home that got everything you wanted, and now you're marrying and you're saying, well, it's his right to provide for me. Please know that he has to provide the basics, which is a home. So a home that's within his means. And that makes you feel safe. You have to feel safe in your home, the food on your table, and the necessities, and obviously providing for your children as well. But now, if you're going into a marriage and you're demanding, I want this and that, and it's out of his means, and he doesn't want to give that to you, he doesn't have to give that to you. Now, if he does give that to you, that is nice. It was good on his behalf. It's charity, it's sadaqah. He'll get rewarded for that. But that's not something that he has to give. So sometimes you do need to come from a place of, okay, this is what he can give me, but if I want more than that, then I will need to either ask if he can give me the extra that I want, or can I also contribute to leveling up in my lifestyle? And this is why I will never say, so many people turn around and say, like, Islamically, a woman shouldn't work. Who said that? Where did you get that information from? Because but like I said, he still does need to provide for her. And that doesn't mean paying on date nights and holidays. It means providing the necessities. And of course, for a woman, it does feel nice to be able to get all these things, but please don't demand that as your right when it is not your right. The next thing is that we need to consider is now when a husband and wife to get married and he says, no, you absolutely have to go out to work. There's a gray area here. You have to go out to work because I cannot provide for you. You should not have married her if you weren't able to provide for her. Now, I understand now things can happen, situations can take place where, maybe you can get ill, maybe something happens, maybe you lose your job, and she can support you. Absolutely, she can support you. But saying that, okay, you work, which means that you need to give 50% of the cost of, I'm not going to provide fully for you because you work. No, that's not on. That's actually her right. You do need to look after her. You do need to provide for her. However, that is, like I said, the bare minimum, the basics, the essentials. Now, if you do want, and if you're living in this country, especially, you want to be doing nice things like going on holidays every year or every couple of months, and you want to be able to do that, then maybe it may be a good idea for two people to work, and having two incomes is a fantastic thing to have as long as it works for both of you. But if you're a husband who likes a nicer lifestyle but cannot provide it, and your wife has to work to be able to give that, to be able to contribute to that, then you have to come from a place of compassion when looking at the other roles that are traditionally meant for women. For example, the cooking and cleaning, because if she's out at work all day to give you both a nicer lifestyle, which you are very much enjoying, then out of compassion and out of coming from a place of understanding, then it makes sense that you help out in the home as well. Helping out in the home is not even, sometimes you see it as a woman's role, but it's actually that we should all be helping out in our home anyway. It's, if you're living in a home, you should be helping out in the home. Okay. Now, if you don't know basic skills like learning how to cook, it's not the wife's role. I wouldn't say it's the wife's role. Yes, it's good if she can do that. Fantastic. But if you are both trying to provide a lifestyle for yourself and you like that and you both have agreed to do that, then you cannot let your woman be burning out trying to fit and put on every single hat on and fulfill every single role. It's not possible. It doesn't work out, and there'll be very little balance. So you need to come from a place of understanding in your marriage of how things will work. And you need to come from a place of understanding, because if you both are working all day, then your children, and I do believe that sometimes we are chasing a lifestyle, a lavish lifestyle, or we're thinking about the next investment or the next holiday. But there are things that there's no harm, there's no shame in saying, I want to stay at home and look after the kids. There's no harm in that. There's no shame in that. Sometimes I see women and they feel embarrassed to say that I want to stay at home and look after my children. That is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. The fact that you want to give up years of your life to bring up the next generation, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're not actually getting paid for that. But you're looking after a home when your husband is providing for you, it's a beautiful thing. So for this, everybody is different. Everybody wants different things in life. That's okay. But as long as these things are discussed beforehand. Now, your situation will always change. Maybe your desires from life, your wants from life will change too. And that's okay. But constantly communicating this is really important. Coming from a place of compassion and understanding, and not simply my way is the only way it can work. We have awful comments sometimes on our social media pages. I'm a Muslim woman. I come on TV. I work, but at the end of the day, my husband still provides for me. And we have women. I'm pretty sure they're men who are pretty naive, and they say things like, "Women don't need to be working. Leave the jobs to the men." Okay, all right, that's absolutely fine that you think that, but you may need to expand your idea of why women work. I don't work because my partner cannot provide for me. I don't work because I want to do a man's job. This isn't a man's job. I want to be able to come on here and talk to women about important topics and do something for the sake of Allah. This is my for the sake of Allah. And if you have a problem with that, then maybe you need to meet more people in your life and maybe leave your room and stop writing horrible things on TikTok. So anyways, everybody's going to have an opinion on this, but if she is not going against her religion and she's not doing anything that is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you're thinking that she is doing a man's thing by going out to work, to think about it, at the end of the day, in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, women had roles and they had a huge impact on the ummah, the things that they brought to the table. They had so many roles and they used to get paid for it. So if that triggers you and that upsets you, then maybe you need to check in with yourself and actually get knowledge from other places that aren't your social media page and the backwards people that you are following. But that's just my opinion at the end of the day. And if you are surrounded by these people that have this kind of mentality that women are not allowed to work, this haram, then I'm really sorry for you. And hopefully this we can inspire them and we can teach them that women working is not a terrible thing, it's not a bad thing, and it's not something that we should look down upon. Because if this can go towards great things like bringing up your children in a great way, then that is amazing, inshallah. So I'll speak to you all after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome back. So we have a good few questions from our viewers today, which I will be answering. But just before I get into that, I just want to wrap up the topic of finances and marriage just super quickly, because like I said, there's going to be a lot of people who don't agree with what I say, and that's absolutely okay. I'm totally okay with that. I'm not here to be everybody's best friend. And there's going to be people who understand exactly the problems that we are facing. the reason why I mention these issues that arise is because I see how they impact marriages later on when they're not discussed. Because finances are a huge thing. You know, some people marry for the sake of a woman's wealth as well. If you want that, then that's absolutely fine. If both of you are okay with that and she wants to be able to provide for you, that's totally okay. But that does not take away from her rights. She still can turn around and be like, listen, mate, you need to provide for me. And if you're not in that position of being able to provide the basics for women, then maybe you're not ready to get married. And and I'm not saying we need to make marriage hard by expecting and demanding the most. I'm saying if he can do that and he can give you that, but if he wants more than that, then, and he can't afford that, then he may need to be open to the woman going out and working, and him being able to, or him, if he is not able to provide that and he does want to marry this woman and she's totally okay with him not providing, then he cannot turn around and say to her that you cannot go out to work. Okay, so and people just assume that just because he's your husband, he has the right to say whatever he wants to you. But remember, this man needs to have wisdom. He needs to be wise enough to make good decisions, and he cannot just be saying whatever he wants and not coming from a place of understanding. Because remember, this is a marriage, and he will be accountable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will hold him accountable. Maybe the wife may not be in the position to say no, but this man needs to be God-fearing. And this is why I mentioned Deen at the beginning of this as well. Because if he doesn't care much about the Deen and he doesn't care about being accountable in the eyes of Allah, then he will follow his own desires, and he can let ego pave the way. And we don't want that. We want men who are God-fearing. We want men who want to do right by women, because he understands how important it is to fulfill her rights. Okay, so I'm just going to answer these questions, inshallah. There are a few, so I'm just going to get through them one by one. So the first one is sister or brother has shared a TikTok link. So we do have, I haven't really opened it because I can't open it, but it's asking, is she wearing the hijab here correctly? Because you can see her curves and her butt. Okay, this is an interesting one. So you can give me a picture of anyone wearing a cloth on her head and say, is this hijab correctly done? And I'm really not going to tell you that this hijab is correct and that hijab, this is how it should be. Because let me tell you why. If I was to be sitting here right now and saying, anybody who comes in, your hijab isn't correct or her hijab isn't correct, then I really don't know their journey. The hijab, yes, is a cloth, and it's something that we do need to wear as women. We should be covering ourselves to the best of our ability, because that is what it's a sign of us being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to maintain our modesty and we want to protect ourselves. But imagine now if I went to a woman who may be showing her curves and butt, but she has a cloth on her head, but yesterday she didn't even have that cloth on her head. And I said to her, you're not wearing hijab correctly. Then what that does is it puts that person off. It will put that person off wearing the hijab correctly ever. I can advise, and I can tell her I can tell her that maybe we can learn more about the correct way to cover, but I'm not going to be out here telling somebody that you're not wearing the hijab properly or you're not wearing the hijab correctly, because at the end of the day, I have no idea what their spiritual journey is. Somebody can turn around and say, to me, you're not wearing the hijab properly. But this is my journey, and I am doing it in the best way that I can right now for the sake of Allah. And that's what's most important. So before we get into looking at images or videos of women showing off their bodies, let's focus on our own hijab, focus on our own modesty, maintaining our modesty, whether you're a man or a woman, and focus on that. Because, I get a lot of women, and they send me these pictures and say, should I comment on this woman's profile or under her pictures telling her that she's not wearing hijab properly? I'm like, what's it even? It's not even your business. Her hijab is her problem. Her hijab, yes, we can advise and we're going to look out for our people, but I don't think that the best way forward is by calling people out and saying you're not wearing hijab properly. Because think about it. You need to think about the intention here. Does this person reading your comment on social media think, oh, all right, that person's called me out. Yeah, that's encouraged me to want to wear the hijab properly. If this person, and I always say, focus on your people first, because you may be concerned about this person that you've met on social media, or this person's video that you've seen, and she's not wearing her hijab correctly, but there's people in your own family circle, your own mothers and your own sisters and your own wives, whatever it is, that they may not even be wearing hijab, but you're too concerned about the other sister on the internet or doing a TikTok dance that ain't wearing hijab. Focus on the things that are important first, your own. Advise your own first, inshallah. So I know I can get a little passionate about these topics, but because we do need to focus on our own journeys mainly, and advise in a way that is inspiring, in a way that is wise. Okay, so I do get, it's fine to worry, it's fine to have concern, it's an amazing thing, but she may or may not be wearing her hijab correctly, but we need to understand and learn what a hijab is for ourselves and work towards that every single day. If we're not already there, then we just continue to work towards it. And a hijab, yes, it should cover you. You should be able to conceal your body. We don't need to be showing our body. But what I'm saying is, for a person that may not have covered anything yesterday, and she may have worn a hijab today, let's celebrate that and focus on that and encourage that instead. You also see people that may wear a hijab one day and take it off the next day, wear it on a Monday, take it off on a Tuesday. Instead of saying, why do you do that? That's not hijab. Say, mashallah, she wore the hijab on a Tuesday. She got reward for wearing that hijab on a Tuesday. Instead of thinking, oh, well, she ain't wearing it properly. Why is she wearing it in the first place? That's just my opinion. This is something which I really firmly believe in. And hopefully this is a new way to look at things as well. Next thing is, do you get reward for waiting for marriage and saving yourself for marriage? Of course, yes, because if you're staying away from sexual relations for the sake of Allah, then of course that is going to be rewarding for you. You know, when you are intimate with your partner and it's within marriage and it's with nikah, then you are getting rewarded for that. Which religion will reward you for having sexual relations with your partner? It is a sadaqah, it's an act of charity, because if, of course, you save yourself from it and you don't want to get the sin for it out of marriage, then that is something amazing. You'll get reward for it. And then doing these acts of worship, sexual relations are acts of worship, and having sexual relations with your partner is an act of worship. It's something encouraged, it's something beautiful, then you will get rewarded for it, inshallah. So in the UK, in the USA, we have a hookup culture, and it's important that, that shaitan is that, honestly, just know people's intentions. If you're talking to somebody and they have no intention of marriage, you'll know from the get-go. Okay, they can say all the right words, they can say all the right things, they can say the things that you want to hear, but if they have no interest in marriage, then you'll know that from the beginning. Because if they're taking no action towards marriage, if their elders aren't involved, if their parents aren't involved, then you need to be careful of this person, because you can't trust people. You can't trust people, especially when there's so much evil, there's so much zina that is happening, that in front, like everywhere, literally everywhere, zina has become the norm, and we do need to save ourselves. So I would really say, if you are in it, there's nothing wrong with feeling there's nothing wrong with being attracted to somebody, there's nothing wrong with liking somebody, but be careful that you are keeping it halal still. And you may think, well, how can I be in a relationship with somebody and keep it halal? Yes, you can. You don't need to be having inappropriate conversations. You can get the elders involved. You can plan towards nikah. You can meet up in a place which isn't private. You don't need to let shaitan be the third person. So these things are really important to keep in mind, especially if you are in a relationship. Keep it halal. Keep it halal. You know, you can plan to get married, and if you're not looking to get married and you think this guy's the one or this woman is the one, then save yourselves. Come back when you're ready. Come back when you're ready for marriage. And if you're not ready for marriage, then don't entertain a relationship at all, inshallah. So it's been a really great episode today. I feel like we've spoken a lot about loads of important things. I really can't wait to come on next week again and talk about more important topics that need to be discussed, right? So inshallah, I love hearing from you on what you would like to hear about more, the kind of things that may have been playing on your mind, questions that you may have that you want to hear my Islamic perspective on, maybe things that you're struggling with right now, maybe things that you just want to learn more about. I'm here for you to talk about all of these topics, and I absolutely love hearing from you every single week. So do share this if you're watching it later on, share it with your family and friends, inshallah. And I shall catch you all next week, and do send your questions in, inshallah. So hopefully we have all benefited from today. And don't forget to give sadaqah on your knowledge by sharing it with others. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Allah, ya Allah.